The South African Council of Churches has expressed shock over the tragic death of 21 young people at Enyobeni tavern in East London, as we were just saying, in the Eastern Cape. The council says the nation must take lessons from the devastating incident. Preliminary investigations show that the children did not die of natural causes, nor a stampede, as had been widely speculated yesterday. Let's talk about this now with the South African Council of Churches General Secretary, Bishop Malusi Mpumlwana. Bishop, a very good afternoon to you. Welcome to the program. You have described this as a tragic moment. I wonder how else you've been processing what's happened in East London.
I think it is a sad day, truly a sad day, when children's entertainment is almost understood to be at a shebeen. I mean, if you look at the WhatsApp advertisement for this occasion, don't waste your time searching for vines. It's going to be lit this weekend. Enyobeni Scenery Park. Ungaphoswa. We're going to be celebrating Fish and Spa's birthday. Free entry. And this is being circulated amongst children. And there's not even a reference to age. And then, of course, it's kind of like, and I mean, I can't imagine that many people would not have seen this even ahead of this incident. But it does say that it was generally understood to be all right. And I think that we have to stop and take notice if our children's entertainment has become the kind of, if the shebeen is the kind of place where we can expect birthdays to be celebrated. And that there's nothing wrong with this in the minds of those that knew it was going to happen, even before. I mean, let alone the fact that the advert itself ironically ends up saying, Kuzofiwa. Of course, the man is going to be great, but it really actually ended up being fewer people dying.
And just on that, Bishop Mpumlwana, I mean, whatever the cause, as things stand, what we're waiting to hear is what killed these teenagers, 21 children, the youngest 13, according to the health, not the health minister, but police minister Begicele speaking yesterday. Whatever the cause of death, the fact that so many underage children were in a tavern speaks to a broader societal problem. And I wonder if you have any ideas on how that should be addressed, how that should be fixed.
Absolutely. The starting point is community. I won't be talking just about parents because, I mean, there's a sense in which parenting has become a problem in itself. It's been a difficulty in other ways. But you see, this shebeen has been existing there. And I listened this morning to an interview with a neighbor, a person in that neighborhood, who says they've been complaining about this shebeen. They went to the, to the liquor board, and there were no responses. The owner of the shebeen never cared to respond to anything. So we get a situation where people advance their profit interests ahead of community interests. We're talking about this in state capture. What difference does it make if you don't care for your own neighborhood? How different are you from the Guptas?
And for that to have happened, I mean, one of the things we're hearing, Bishop, is that this tavern was at this point operating beyond the license conditions. And for that to have happened without any consequences suggests that someone would have looked away, which, as you were just drawing the parallel to state capture, how the rot deepens, spreads, when people also look away instead of saying, hang on a minute, that should not be happening, and it has to stop, and it has to stop now.
Well, you can start by saying, how did they get the license in the first instance? Because, I mean, I looked at the requirements for a license for the Eastern Cape. One of the things is the structural floor plan of premises to be used for trading. All doors, windows, counters, and means of external and internal communication. And they say there was one door going down. How could this be the case? What plans were submitted? And that the municipality, it must give permission for these particular premises to be used. There must be a notification of the local police services to participate in community consultations. What community consultations if the whole neighborhood is complaining about the place And, there was a study that was conducted in Cape Town on these things, that you get not only the noise over the whole weekend, every weekend, but you also get health issues with people urinating in the neighbors outside and just causing such a nuisance and exposing women and children to their private parts.
Mm-hmm. Something else that the police minister, Bheki said, speaking after arriving in East London yesterday, he basically said that parents are responsible for the care and well-being of their children. But when you speak to anyone who's raised children, especially teenagers, it's not often that black and white. Parents don't always have control of their children 24/7, do they?
Yes, they don't. But I think a parent would be concerned if your child is not home by 1 o'clock in the morning, whatever the cause. I also do have some measure of understanding because, Tembegile, a few years ago, the SACC requested the Human Sciences Research Council to conduct a study for us on the family life. And we were rather shocked, maybe we shouldn't have been, to find that 38% of South African families only have got both parents living with them. That means that more than 60% don't. It's either child-headed or headed by a single parent, most likely the mother, who works so hard and is probably too exhausted to deal with this. And so that is also another reality, which is all part of the history of inequalities in our society and in the way in which, the fact that children, it can become normalized that they will entertain themselves at the shebeen is a problem. There was a parent that was talking on television this morning about his daughter, who is a kind of an intern DJ, who's 17, an intern DJ at this shebeen. And the parents actually almost looked like, well, this is an opportunity for my daughter. Nobody thinks about age and what children are exposed to. So it can then be that in that whole area, the law does not quite apply. And I think we are promoting a society that does not respect the rule of law.
What then is the role of the clergy, which you speak on behalf of, in mending that?
I've been talking to the SACC in the Eastern Cape, and of course, at the time when we were talking yesterday, they were not even allowed yet, the clergy, to come in and minister. But it seems to me that there has to be something to be done to promote the appropriate rule of law and the management of children. If you think about children the majority of whom don't have both parents, therefore they are tumbling up really rather than being brought up. And therefore there is a need for a kind of a societal structural system that manages. And I remember in the days when we had, in the days of the struggle, there used to be something called street committees. You know what? Those street committees did not only deal with matters political, they also dealt with social and societal issues. There will be issues about mutual support in burials, issues about how to get the children of this place. I'm talking about the place where I was a priest myself in Newzroom. We did a lot in the street systems to create social systems that can help keep children entertained and managed. And I think that it is possible. And so I think that the churches can do more of this. But you must also appreciate that a lot of churches have become entrepreneurial enterprises themselves with very limited time or concern for community other than what the entrepreneur who runs the church is getting out of it.
But also, I would imagine if the clergy and churches are to play more of an active role, given where we are in society where people are so poor, families have just become so run down by whatever circumstances they're facing, the parents and the children of these teenagers would want the church to be a place that when they do come forward, it is a space free of judgment as well, because often people don't talk or seek help because they feel as though they'll be shut down or whoever's on the other end will then judge them for whatever reason.
There is another reality we have to take into account. Many, many years ago, it looks so far back now, there was a greater influence of the church because the church influence was also in the school system. It's not anymore. And so unless your parents that are so busy do actually take you to church, children don't grow up with church in the main. And there was a time when every home had to have prayer before they sleep and wake up in the morning, and you'll be surprised to find how many still do that. And so if the influence of the church is that much less from what it was in the past. So these are some of the realities we have to take into account when we think about how best we can bring to bear. And I'm saying that amongst other things, there is something to be said, Tembegile, about the public values of our society. How do we develop the kind of public values that can make me say, Tembegile, look, it is not done. It is un-South African. It's something we don't do in this country. How do we socialize for values that will actually define our nationhood in a way that's positive for the bringing up of children in our society?
Bishop Malusi Mpumlwana, good to have your time. Thank you very much, sir.